Hi everyone, welcome to my channel Chords Records. I talk about vinyl, things I'm listening to, things I'm buying, and I'm part of the VC, the vinyl community on YouTube. And I'm going to share a few albums today which are so far apart in their thematics. They're all really interesting. This is part of my listening shelf series. I'm up to episode 21, where I just pull out what I have actually been listening to lately. And the first one is this 7-inch single by the Magnolia and Johnson Electric Company. So who are they? They're the reformed or kind of new formed band that came from the Magnolia Electric Company with Jason Molina before he passed away. And what they have done is they've reformed, and last year they played a few kind of shows in Texas, and they released this 7-inch. And he was, of course, from the Magnolia Electric Company. So Will Johnson brought together a whole bunch of the ex-members, and they went into the studio and brought, same engineers and producers, including the artist who did all the traditionally kind of did all the artwork. His name was Will Schaff, and they re-recorded 2 fully realized songs from that album in 2009. And the 2 songs are Wooden Heart and 20 Cycles to the Ground. And they released this, I think, a very limited edition 7-inch. And it is beautiful. It's exactly what you expect from the original band. I just absolutely love them. And so that's the first one I wanted to share. I bought that on Bandcamp, so you can go and head over there and see if it's still available. Okay, the next one. Hands up if you recognize this. I probably should shout out Vinyl Richie here. I'll tag him in the comments and see if he watches this. He's the only one that I know that would know what this is, because most of the vinyl community that I follow aren't into kind of this kind of fairly hardcore punk or cross heavy metal. This is really well known, but for me, I don't have a lot of punk in my collection, but this came up last year. It's the reissue of the great Canadian band that is NoMeansNo, and their sort of classic album Wrong is probably the most famous album they did. And they've kind of signed back their reissue recordings to Alternative Tentacle Records, which I think they're originally on. And they reissued this. We got the red version, really kind of well presented with this kind of card with the lyrics. I'll just show you the record. It came in a bunch of colour variations. We just got whatever was available, just to have a nice clean copy. Never seen it in the wild here. They went on, they're a 3-piece band, and they kind of came out of kind of the punk scene, but brilliant musicians, and they have said that they were influenced by almost kind of like a progressive jazz and punk and heavy metal. But this album is really strong and really jamming, if you like. It is definitely punk, and it's not for the faint of heart, but really fantastic record, and recommend picking this up, because they don't come along every now and then, and getting a clean copy is fantastic. So that's NoMeansNo, Wrong. Right, the next one, and as I said, this is my listening shelf, so we're all over the place, and I just love good music. And this one I was so thrilled to pick up really cheaply, and I'll tell you why. Oops, dropping the Obi. So this is Willie Nelson and Family, and I'll just show you the Obi. This is from the Vinyl Me Please country track. I subscribed to this track when it was around, and then everything went pear-shaped and they cancelled the tracks, the kind of the swim lanes of those various Vinyl Me Please channels. And then of course they went under, and then they've re-emerged from the ashes. But the Vinyl Me Please Country was a sensational collection of about 40 albums that they put out, and I subscribed to it day one. And Unfortunately, and I regret it now, if I wasn't interested in one or if I already had an original of it, I swapped them out for something else in their catalogue. And I am slowly going about picking all the ones I didn't get, which is about half. So I've probably got around 20, 25 of them. And this was one of the ones that I passed on, and it came up. I've got a watch on all of these. If you know of any going cheaply, let me know. But they're quite expensive in Australia because very few people brought them in. And so they're up around $70 or $100. But I picked this one up really cheaply. And this is number 34 in the actual series. And I intend to collect them all. I just love them. They're all mastered by Ryan K. Smith for the most part. I'm pretty sure this one was as well. And they all come with, and this is one of the reasons I want them, they're all beautifully produced and mastered and issued. Like the vinyl's flat, clean. And they all come with these essays, which are fantastic, which were particularly and especially commissioned, as Vinyl Me Please used to do. But all the VMP country come with them, and this is an excellent essay on this album. So this album, it is so great. And when you read the liner notes, you kind of get the context. But if you were just to put it on, not knowing anything, it would be this really beautiful kind of wash of Willie Nelson's voice in a very lo-fi, familiar way, but with some really amazing guitar riffs and breakout moments throughout the record. And it was made in 1971, and it was considered one of the last albums of his before era, and before he went on to become the outlaw Willie Nelson that we all know. And it was the album released right before Shotgun Willie, which he then went on to, to his after era. And it was never issued on CD. It was never reissued on vinyl. And so to get this beautiful copy, it's just brilliant. And family isn't his family except for Bobby, his sister Bobby, who passed a couple of years ago, on keys, brilliant piano player. It's people he'd had around him, and he called them his family, and he'd been wanting to record with them for a long time. He'd been touring with them and making amazing live music, and he finally was able to convince whoever to put this album out, and it's really wonderful. And it's got one of the highlights on this album is Chris Christopherson's Sunday Morning Coming Down, which goes for 5 minutes and 47 seconds, and it's just a brilliant cover of that. It's got a couple of covers on it, actually. It's got Fire and Rain, the James Taylor song, which is just beautiful. Really solid album. Absolutely love it. And then the next one, we love English artist called Tom Odell. Tom Odell is touring Australia at the moment, and I went to see him last night, and so I've been listening to his albums, and this one is Jubilee Road from 2018, and of course his first one, this one, Long Way Down, which you probably know some of the tracks if you're familiar with him. The biggest song off this album, which is probably his most famous, is Another Love, and he usually plays that in encore. Absolutely love him. Saw him at the Sydney Opera House last year with just an orchestra and him at the grand piano. And last night he had his full band, and it's an absolute brilliant live show. If you ever get a chance to see him live, he's got probably 6 or 7 musicians. He's got a couple of horn players. He's got a violin player, a mandolin player, drums, just amazing. And he's one of the best male singers in the industry today, in my opinion. His vocal athletics are incredible. He's piano forward. He sits at the grand piano for most of the gig and very rarely gets up. It's pop, soul, funk music. Absolutely brilliant. Right, this was a real treat. So I I had somebody sort of contact me in my email inbox who was from Denmark, and his name was Jacob Forholt, and he considers himself, it's self kind of labelled outsider music from Denmark, and he informed me that there's quite an outsider music scene in Denmark, and I'm really interested in outsider music and outsider art in general. I did a video on outsider art and another artist, Andrew Neil, quite a few months ago, and he stumbled on that video and he reached out to me, and he's been producing music for years. He makes his crust as a teacher, but his music is beautiful, and I jumped on Bandcamp. His music's on Bandcamp. You can, I'll put a link in the notes below. I jumped on, immediately bought one to support him, and he kindly sent me a couple of his others. So I have 3 here. This one's called A Lake of Distortion. This one's called Burn, Burn Here. And this one is self-titled. And this is the most recent. And think if you know outsider music and Daniel Johnston, he's actually not dissimilar in his, you can tell his influence, but it's very easy to listen to. It's not outsider music in that it's atonal and awkward and hard to kind of understand. This is melodic, guitar forward, singing forward, lo-fi. He does everything mostly himself. He releases these albums, maybe 100 editions each. So support him, please. His music is just absolutely beautiful, and I wouldn't talk about this if I didn't believe in him and didn't believe in this music. This drawing, I believe, was done by his wife, who's an artist and does portraits. So yeah, check him out. His name is Jacob Forholt, and I'll put a link to his Bandcamp below. The next one, have you seen this? Super interesting. So this is the silent album that they released or announced. Is This What We Want, which was co-signed by about 1,000 or more artists. And it's an album of 7 tracks with a bonus track by Paul McCartney. Limited edition to 1,000. I got number 60. And it's in support of and protest of AI being artists' creativity and artists' work being used and trawled by AI to create work without any copyright payment, without any acknowledgement. It shouldn't happen. And I'll just read you here. A silent protest album released by 1,000+ musicians demanding the British government must not legalise music theft to benefit AI companies. And obviously Paul McCartney provided the bonus track. And it is really interesting in that it's not completely silent. So, as I said, it has, it's got, not 7 tracks, 14 tracks, and it's just in the shape of the British government must not release music theft to the benefit of AI companies, bonus track. It's ambient noise, quiet noise of empty studios or studio doors being shut, or things happening in a world where you can imagine a dystopian world where all the art has disappeared and studios have been emptied. And a really clever way to raise money and to protest. And I just thought it was I did it because I really believe in it, but I just thought what an interesting album to have. A kind of a bit of a timestamp, if you like, a kind of a mark in time of the moment we're in, and all the co-signed artists are on here, and it's so many names you recognize. So that is This What We Want? The next one is from the very popular artist Olivia Rodrigo, who I am a huge fan of, and the wonderful album Live from Glastonbury, a BBC recording. I absolutely love Olivia Rodrigo. have everything she's done, which is not much, about 3 albums. And her original single, if you don't know her famous single Driver's License, she's one of the early new crops of female singer-songwriters. She was one of the earlier ones, but she's the real deal. History will treat her well. She can sing beautifully. Her idols are people like Joni Mitchell. She's got the right aesthetic in understanding music, and her work lends itself a little bit to punk, or the Runaways, kind of that female, or Patti Smith, female 70s rock, Debbie Harry. So she's her, and she writes a lot of her own songs. She's the real deal. I just love her. And this Glastonbury set has been recorded so well. It's a double album, and it's got a funny appearance on side C by Robert Smith, and from The Cure, and he sings a duet with her, Friday I'm in Love, like classic song, and it's okay. It's obviously not the original, but Olivia Rodrigo, kind of, thank God for her on this, because his voice is not holding up that well, and Just Like Heaven. So a really fantastic live album, a really great kind of recording of a Glastonbury set, which is so iconic, and I'm so pleased to have something on vinyl. Right. Oh no, oh no, I'm so angry. I'll tell you what's happened in a minute. Oh, these stupid sticky, where the sticky is on that side and not on that. And I've just torn the Obi strip of something I'm about to show you. So that's going in the bin. And I'm so angry. The Split Ends box set. This is the first of the Encyclopedia archival series that Split Ends are doing. The New Zealand band, formed in 1973 by Tim Finn, Phil Judd, a bunch of other people. And what they've done with this is it's basically Mental Notes. They're fantastic 1973 album, and this is the first of their archive series. I am an all-in Split Ends. I'm a half New Zealander. I spent over a decade living there with my family during the pivotal years of the 80s when Flying Nun was huge. I was photographing a lot of bands then, and I just love Split Ends. So Mental Notes is my favourite album of theirs, so to get a remastered brand new version of it is fantastic. I have others. I've got several copies of Split Ends, New Zealand originals, Australian originals, represses. I love this band. But this is where it gets awkward. This is really controversial. The Friends, F-R-E-N-Z, the Friends of the Ends, which is kind of the fan group of Split Ends, very controversial. They do not like this. They think it's been poorly done, and I'd have to agree. They could have done it so much better. And the reason I'm showing it today is because not only have I've been listening to it, but they've just announced this week an edition, this kind of the next release of the Encyclopedia Archive, and it's kind of more of the same. But let me just show you what they did to show you why the controversy's there. First of all, fantastic booklet. Like, it's fantastic. Lots and lots of archival imagery. There's archival imagery for days because the fan club of Split Ends is very, very fan-centric. The slipcase is pretty good. It's solid, reproduced quite well. It's got the second cover where he's bald. The first cover he had hair. There's various ways you can tell. But then, and Second Thoughts was the alternative kind of version of it that was released. But they released the albums, 3 albums in this collection, which are remastered and reversions and bits and pieces, in these flimsy cardboard sleeves with absolutely no No, not even a cheap plastic sleeve in the cardboard. It's literally in a cardboard sleeve. So they've gone to all this effort to release an archival version of Split Enz. And it's the Split Enz guys. It's Tim and Neil Finn kind of who are behind all this. And they're just releasing in this shoddy vinyl kind of packaging. And I tell you what, the fans are up in arms. Very, very disappointed. I'm not so much, because I really actually enjoyed the reissue. So, you know, I've got a couple of friends in the vinyl community who are very aware of Split Enz and were fans themselves, and you know who you are. But I'd like to know what you think. And I'll keep buying the encyclopedia, just because, you know, I'll want to keep it all. And I am a completist when it comes to Split Enz with vinyl, this sort of stuff. But yeah, they could have done a better job. Anyway, that's my listening shelf for today. Please subscribe, please like, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.